my name is Scout Harlow, I'm 34, and I've spent the last 5 years living with the kind of fear that never really leaves your bones, the fear of losing the one person you can't live without. My daughter Emma is 8, soft-spoken, wide-eyed, the kind of child who apologizes for things that aren't her fault. Her father, my ex-husband, died when she was 3. Car accident. Late at night, the kind where the police officer at your door doesn't need to say a single word. People talk about grief as if it's a season, something you simply endure until the sun returns. But it's not like that. It's a tide. It comes and goes without warning. And raising a little girl alone while trying to convince yourself you're not breaking her in the process, that tide never stops. Still, I built our life back up piece by piece. My job, our routines, our little home, a world where Emma could feel safe again. And then Aaron walked into it. Aaron was easy. That's the first word I'd use. Easy in his smile, easy in the way he listened, easy in how he took one look at my fraying edges and didn't run. He was 32, gentle-voiced, worked in community outreach. He liked people, he liked helping, and for a long time, I believed he liked us. Our first year together was stable, almost boring, in a way my heart desperately needed. I didn't introduce him to Emma right away. I promised myself long ago that no one meets my daughter unless I'm absolutely serious. After 12 months, I was serious. When they did meet, it wasn't magic. But it wasn't bad either. Aaron brought Emma a coloring book. She thanked him politely, tucked behind me halfway, watching him like he might evaporate. She's slow to warm, cautious in a way that sometimes feels older than her 8 years. I watched him watching her, and something inside me softened. He tried. That mattered. 6 months ago, he moved in. And that's when the shift began. Nothing dramatic, not at first. Aaron would serve dinner and give Emma noticeably smaller portions. When I asked, he'd laugh lightly. She shouldn't waste food, babe. Kids don't need as much. Emma is tiny. She outright never wastes anything. But questioning him felt like lighting a match in a room dripping with gasoline, so I chose silence over sparks. Then came the other small things. Suggesting date nights on weekends he knew I had with Emma. Scheduling dinners with colleagues and acting surprised when I said I needed to find childcare. Calling Emma sensitive when she got overwhelmed. Calling me overprotective when I stepped in. But the real crack in the foundation arrived with a woman. Her name was Rachel, Aaron's ex-girlfriend. She reappeared like a stray shadow, unexpected, unwelcome, and always a little too close. "It's nothing," Aaron had said. "We stayed friendly." But Rachel didn't act like a friend. She'd text him late, random memes, thinking of you songs, photos that were never inappropriate but always intentionally timed. Once she came by the house to drop off old books. She barely looked at me, but when her eyes landed on Emma, something flashed there. Jealousy, resentment, maybe even disgust. I couldn't tell, but it made my skin crawl. Aaron brushed off my concerns. "She's dramatic," he said. "She's lonely. She just needs closure." Closure doesn't show up at your house unannounced. Still, I buried my instincts. I had been alone for so long that it felt greedy to want perfection. I told myself I was imagining things. But the truth was whispering already. I just didn't want to hear it. 3 weeks ago, my company scheduled me for a 3-day work conference in Da Nang. A big client, mandatory presence, career-level importance. I asked my parents to watch Emma. They were traveling. I asked her paternal grandparents. They were dealing with a health issue. It felt like the universe had closed every door except one. Aaron. I hesitated. Every piece of my gut screamed no, but every piece of my life needed me to go. "Scout," he said, looking almost offended I even doubted him. "I can handle a child. I want to. This is bonding time." Bonding time. Those words felt off, like we were talking about assembling IKEA furniture, not caring for my daughter. I asked him 3 times if he was sure. Each time he said yes, smiling, patient, reassuring. So Monday morning, I kissed Emma on the forehead, hugged her longer than usual, and left. That first night, I called. Emma sounded normal. Pizza, movies, bedtime. I breathed for the first time that day. The second night, she sounded different, small, like she was trying not to cry. "Everything okay?" I whispered into the phone. "Yeah," she whispered back, voice thin as tissue paper. When Aaron got on the line, his tone was sharp, impatient. "She's fine. She's just tired. Don't stress." But I was already stressing. I paced the hotel room for an hour, replaying the call in my head, every instinct in me rattling. I told myself I was imagining things. Again. I shouldn't have done that. By Wednesday afternoon, my flight landed early. I texted Aaron. On my way home. No response. I got to the house around 5:30 p.m. The kitchen light was off. The living room was quiet. Too quiet. Emma, I called. Nothing. Aaron! A door opened down the hall. Aaron stepped out, looking annoyed. Annoyed that I was home early. My stomach twisted. Where's Emma? He said it as casually as if he were discussing the weather. Oh, I dropped her at her grandparents' place. My blood ran cold. You, what? He shrugged. It made more sense. No, nothing about that made sense. My heart started pounding so loudly it drowned out everything else. I told him those grandparents were unavailable. I told him they had medical issues. I told him everything. And I stared at him as the room tilted. Aaron, I whispered, why would you take her there without asking me? He crossed his arms, met my eyes, and something dark flickered there. Because I'm done. A cold rip of fear opened in my chest. Done with what? I asked. He answered so quietly it felt like a knife sliding in. This, playing house with someone else's kid. I didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning. Playing house with someone else's kid. The words hit me so hard I actually took a step back. For a second, I just stared at Aaron, waiting for him to laugh, to say it came out wrong, that he was stressed or tired. Something. Anything. He didn't. He rolled his shoulders like he was finally unloading a heavy backpack. I thought it would be different, Scout, he said. I thought she'd be less needy, less around. Less around? I repeated, my voice thin. She lives here. This is her home. He scoffed. Exactly. Her things everywhere. Her noise, her schedule. I can't even plan a weekend without checking your custody calendar. It's like I'm dating both of you. My hand started to shake. She's my daughter, I said quietly. He sighed, annoyed. Yeah, and I get that. I tried. I really did. But I'm done. I want a life with you. Just you. Not this single mom plus appendage arrangement. Something inside me went very, very still. You took her to her grandparents, Faye, I said slowly, without asking me, while I was 900 kilometers away. After I told you they had medical stuff going on, why? His jaw flexed. Because it's simpler. They're family. They can handle her. You and I can actually have a relationship without all this. He gestured vaguely around the house, like all this meant my entire reality. I felt my pulse in my teeth. That's not your choice to make, I whispered. He looked at me like I was the unreasonable one. You left her with me. I took responsibility. I decided what was best. No, that wasn't responsibility. That was control. A slow, cold clarity slid into my bones. I reached into my back pocket, fingers brushing my phone. In our province, only one person has to consent to a recording. I knew that because I'd once looked it up during a custody scare with my ex's family. My thumb unlocked the screen without me even looking. I opened the recording app, hit record, and let my hand hang loosely by my side. My voice came out steady, too steady. Let me get this straight, Aaron, I said. You took my daughter to her grandparents without my permission while I was out of town. He rolled his eyes. I had permission. You left her with me. You had permission to watch her here, I corrected. Not to drop her somewhere else. Not to override my decisions as her mother. You knew they were dealing with health issues. They seemed fine when I dropped her off, he snapped. And you're being dramatic. And now, I went on, ignoring the insult, you're telling me you're done, that my daughter is too much, that you want a life with me without her. He hesitated, then doubled down. Yes, I want a real life with you, just you. So yeah. He looked me dead in the eye. It's either her or me. You choose. There it was. The ultimatum, the kind of sentence you can't take back. For a moment, the house disappeared. I couldn't feel the floor. All I could hear was my own breathing and the faint ringing in my ears. I thought of Emma's tiny backpack by the door, her shoes lined up on the mat, her handwriting on the fridge calendar. I thought of the officer on my doorstep 5 years ago telling me her father wasn't coming home. I thought of the way Emma still checks if I'm breathing when I fall asleep on the couch. I looked at the man in front of me, the one who claimed to love me, and realized something awful. He didn't see my daughter as part of me. He saw her as a wall between us. Make a choice, Shay, he said again, confident, like the outcome was already decided. I let the silence stretch, let him think he was winning. Then I said very softly, easy choice. His whole face changed. Relief flooded over his features. His shoulders dropped. He smiled. I knew it, he said. You and I, we can... Pack your things, I cut in. The smile cracked, then vanished. What? You heard me, I said. Get your stuff. Get out. He stared at me like I'd just spoken another language. Scout, don't be ridiculous. You took my child somewhere without asking me, I said, my voice rising for the first time. You told her grandparents I approved it when I didn't. And then you stood in my house and told me to choose between you and my daughter. There's no coming back from that. You're choosing her over me? He demanded. Every single time, I said. His face flushed a deep, angry red. You're insane, he snapped. Do you know how hard it is dating a single mom? The baggage, the schedule, the constant emotional coddling for your kid. She's not baggage, I cut in, shaking now. She's my child. You don't get to call her baggage in her own home. This is my home too, he shot back. I live here. No, I said calmly, clinging to that calm like a lifeline. You stay here. There's a difference. The house is mine. I bought it before I met you. Your name isn't on the deed. There's no lease with you listed. You're a guest, Aaron, and guests can be told to leave. He laughed, harsh and ugly. You can't just throw me out. That's illegal. I have tenant rights. I had looked it up before, during a rough patch, months back, when things felt off and I needed to know my options. Technically, after 6 months, he might be able to argue some tenancy rights if this ever went to court. But if he left voluntarily now, that would be very hard to prove later. And I had his confession recorded. I'm not throwing you out, I said. I'm asking you to leave because you abandoned my child without my permission and tried to pressure me into giving her up. If you want to argue that in front of a judge, we can. His eyes flicked to my hand, to the phone I still held. Suspicion rippled across his face. Are you recording this? I met his gaze head on. I am. He froze. You can't. I absolutely can, I said. One party consent, and I'm the party. So let's be very clear on the record. You took my daughter to her grandparents without my permission while I was away. Yes or no? He swallowed. Yes, but... And you told me to choose between you and her. Yes or no? He hesitated. Then stupidly, yes, because this situation is... That's all I need, I said. I walked past him to the bedroom, my legs shaking but moving anyway. I yanked his duffel bag from the closet and started pulling his clothes off the hangers. Scout, stop, he yelled from the doorway. You're overreacting. We can talk about this. We're past talking, I said, stuffing his shirts into the bag. You made your position clear. He grabbed my arm, hard. Don't do this. I pulled my arm free. My voice dropped, low and dangerous. Don't touch me. Something in my tone must have registered because he stepped back. I kept packing. Clothes, toiletries, his laptop charger, the watch he always left on the nightstand. I moved like a machine, efficient and cold, because if I let myself feel anything, I'd fall apart. You're going to regret this, he said, following me down the hall as I dragged the duffel to the front door. You think you can do this alone forever? No one else is going to sign up for your mess, Scout. A kid, an ex, drama. I opened the front door, tossed the bag outside, and turned to him. I already did it alone, I said, and I'll do it again before I let anyone treat my daughter like she's optional. He stood there, chest heaving. I'm not leaving, he said finally. This is my home too. I shrugged. Then I'll start putting your things on the front lawn until it isn't. I headed back down the hall, pulled open drawers, emptied them into another suitcase. He shouted, cursed, called me names. I tuned it out. I'd heard worse from life than anything he could throw at me. When I brought the second bag to the door, he was already outside, pacing, phone pressed to his ear, probably calling a friend, maybe Rachel, maybe anyone who'd validate his version. Last chance, I said quietly. Walk away. Take your things. Don't come back. He glared at me, eyes burning. You're unbelievable. Goodbye, Aaron. He snatched both bags, stomped down the steps, and threw them into his car. Engine roared, tires screeched. He sped away. The moment his car turned the corner, my body finally remembered how to move without adrenaline. I shut the door, locked it, and leaned my forehead against the wood. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. Emma. I needed to get to Emma. I forced myself upright, grabbed a pen and paper, and wrote out a formal notice, terminating his occupancy, documenting that he'd removed his belongings voluntarily and that any remaining items would be available by appointment only. Then I snapped a picture of it, sent it to his number with a single text. This is your notice to vacate. Do not return to this property without my written consent. He didn't respond. I called a locksmith next. Emergency service. Extra fee, didn't care. Within an hour, every lock on my house was changed. Front door, back door, garage. Only when that was done did I finally dial the number I should have called the second I walked in. Emma's grandparents. Her father's parents. Her grandmother picked up on the second ring. Hello? It's me, I said, voice unsteady. Is Emma there? There was a small pause. Yes, she said slowly. Aaron dropped her off this morning. He said you asked him to. My heart lurched. I didn't, I said. I never told him to bring her to you. I just got back from my trip and she was gone. There was a beat of horrified silence on the other end. Oh my God, her grandmother whispered. Scout, I'm so sorry. We thought... He said, Emma's been quiet all day. We knew something felt wrong. My throat tightened. Is she okay? I managed. She's quiet, but she's okay. She's been asking when you're coming. I closed my eyes, held onto the back of a chair to steady myself. I'm on my way, I said. Don't let her out of your sight. I grabbed my keys, my bag, and the phone with the recording still saved in it. Whatever happened next, one thing was already clear. Aaron thought he could move my daughter like a pawn. He was about to find out I'd burn the whole board before I let that happen again. The drive to Emma's grandparents' house felt longer than the entire flight back from Da Nang. My hands were locked around the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles had gone white. Every red light felt like a personal insult. Every slow-moving motorbike made my heart hammer harder. I must have checked the rearview mirror 20 times, expecting Aaron's car to appear out of nowhere. Irrational, but fear doesn't follow logic. When I finally pulled into the familiar driveway, the porch light was already on. Emma's grandmother stood at the door, worry written all over her face. The moment she saw me, she opened her arms. She's in the living room, she whispered. She's been waiting. My throat closed and I nodded, stepping inside. There she was, my daughter. Legs tucked under her, a book open in her lap, but not being read. Eyes lifting the second she sensed me. Mom? Everything in me broke and rebuilt in that one word. I crossed the room, knelt, and pulled her into my arms. She wrapped herself around me so tightly it felt like she was afraid I might disappear. Hey, baby, I breathed into her hair. I'm here. I'm so sorry. She didn't cry. Emma rarely cries, but I felt her shoulders shudder once. Tiny, controlled. Can we go home? She whispered. Yes, I said immediately. Right now. I thanked her grandparents, promising I would explain everything soon. They nodded, but the grandmother touched my arm before we left. When he brought her, she said softly, she looked confused. Not scared, just like she thought something bad had happened. Scout, please tell me you didn't... I didn't send her here, I said. I didn't even know she was gone. The shock on her face told me everything I needed to know. If Aaron lied to them this easily, he believed he had the right to. That belief was gone now. I got Emma into the car, buckled her in, and we started driving. The road was dark, the hum of the engine the only sound for several minutes. Finally, Emma spoke. Aaron said, her voice wavered. I loosened my grip on the wheel. What did he say, sweetheart? Long pause, then, he said, you needed a break from me. My heart split clean down the middle. Sweetheart, I said, blinking hard. Look at me. She turned her face toward me, eyes shiny but dry. I never need a break from you. He said I was a lot of work. I pulled the car over. I couldn't keep driving with this conversation happening from the back seat like a ghost crawling into the space between us. I turned around, took her small hands into mine. Emma Harlow, I said gently, there is nothing about you that is too much work for me. You're my daughter. You're my heart. You're the best part of my life. I will always choose you. She studied me for a long moment, as if trying to decide whether she could believe me over a grown man who'd fed her lies for the last 2 days. Finally, she nodded. Okay, I echoed, but inside I was shaking. Because this wasn't just about retrieving her from someone irresponsible. This was about undoing damage. We drove home in silence, the kind that isn't empty. It's heavy with everything unspoken. When I parked the car in our driveway, Emma looked at the house like it was a fortress she wasn't sure she'd be allowed back into. Aaron's gone, baby, I told her softly. It's just us again. Because of me? She asked, voice small and terrified of the answer. No, I said firmly, because of him. He made bad choices that hurt us. This is not your fault. She nodded slowly, as if memorizing that sentence so she could take it out later and examine it again. That night I made her favorite meal, mac and cheese with cut-up hot dogs. She picked at it, appetite shaky, but she ate. We watched Moana for the 100th time. She curled up beside me on the couch, leaning against my arm. I felt her breathing even out, her body finally relaxing against mine after 2 days of tension. She fell asleep like that. I carried her to bed, tucked her in, kissed her forehead. Only when I stepped back into the hallway and closed her door did the adrenaline fade and the exhaustion crash into me like a wave I'd been out running. But I wasn't done yet, because Aaron wasn't done. My phone buzzed, first with texts, then calls, then more texts. Aaron, We need to talk. I'm sorry. I overreacted. Please just let me explain. I ignored them. Then his tone changed. Aaron, you can't just kick someone out like that. That's illegal, Scout. I'm serious. You have no idea what you just did. And then the part that made my stomach flip. Aaron, I'm coming back tomorrow for my things. I typed a single response. Your belongings will be boxed up and left outside. Do not come to the door. Text first to confirm pickup. Do not contact Emma again. He called immediately. I didn't pick up. He called again. Blocked that number. Then a new one called. Blocked. Another blocked. I sat at the dining table, staring at the screen, the recording saved at the top of my recent files. He thought he had power. He thought he could lie. He thought he could intimidate. But I had the truth. And I wasn't done protecting my daughter. Not by a long shot. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, flashes of Aaron's face, smug, annoyed, angry, kept replaying in the dark. I'd get up, check the locks again, peek into Emma's room just to make sure she was still there, still breathing, still safe. By sunrise, I felt like I'd lived an entire lifetime. At 8 a.m., after dropping Emma at school with a tight hug and a promise I'd be there early to pick her up, I made my first real move. I called a lawyer. She was someone my parents used years ago for estate issues. Practical, sharp, no nonsense. The minute I explained the situation, her tone hardened. Scout, she said, what you're describing is custodial interference. And that recording, that's your anchor. I emailed it to her immediately. She listened, called me back briskly. This is excellent, she said. He admits everything. He admits he removed your child without permission. He admits to pressuring you to give her up. He admits knowledge of the grandparents' medical issues. This is textbook. Hearing someone else say it out loud made the room tilt. Can he get in trouble for this? I asked. My voice didn't sound like mine. Potentially, she answered, but the main priority is ensuring he has zero legal foothold over you or your daughter. The second priority is making sure he can't spin this into some narrative that harms you later. I'll draft a cease and desist to block any further contact. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in days. When I hung up, a sense of purpose replaced the terror. Not strength, just clarity. Sometimes that's more powerful. The rest of the day passed in a methodical blur. I worked. I checked my phone. I blocked 3 more numbers Aaron tried calling from. Then I started packing his remaining things. Every shirt, every notebook, every pair of socks went into taped boxes. Not carefully, not violently, just decisively. I stacked them by the door like a row of tombstones, each one marking the grave of a mistake I wasn't going to repeat. At 2 p.m., he texted me again. I'm coming at 4. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I didn't respond. I placed his boxes neatly on the porch, took a photo with a timestamp, sent it to him with one final message. Your items are outside. Do not knock. Do not enter. You no longer have permission to be on this property. 4 o'clock came, and right on schedule, his car turned onto my street. He walked toward the house with the stiff, jerky movements of someone trying to perform calmness while barely holding it together. He didn't knock, didn't text. He just grabbed the boxes one by one, stacking them in his trunk. I watched from the upstairs window, hidden behind the curtain. At one point, he paused, looked at the front door, tilted his head like he was weighing something. For a moment, I thought he might try to come in, but then he seemed to deflate, like he realized the door wasn't just locked physically. Some invisible boundary had slammed shut, too. He closed his trunk, stood there for several seconds. Then he drove away. I didn't exhale until the taillights disappeared completely, but the quiet that followed didn't last. That night, around 9 p.m., my phone started buzzing again, but not from Aaron. From friends, colleagues, people I barely talked to, all sending me screenshots. Rachel, Aaron's ex, had begun posting on social media. Vague at first. Some women weaponize motherhood to trap men. Choose yourself. Then bolder. When a man gives and gives but gets used, it breaks them. Not everyone deserves to be a step-parent. And then directly hostile. Toxic mothers are the worst kind. Pray for the kids. My stomach dropped. She was speaking about me. A woman who'd never met Emma more than a handful of times. A woman who'd never had a single conversation with me longer than hello. I scrolled through the comments. Supportive friends writing, "You deserve better. Men get abused too. She sounds manipulative. I can't believe she kicked Aaron out." Aaron had clearly fed her a story. A fake story. A victim story. For a split second, panic flared hot and bright. What if people believed it? What if someone called CPS? What if rumors spread? What if... No spiraling, not again. I opened the recording. Played the part where Aaron said, It's either her or me. You choose. Then the part where he admitted he took Emma without permission. I didn't post it publicly. I didn't want a war. But I sent it privately to the people who were messaging me, genuinely confused or concerned. Their responses came fast. Holy crap. I'm so sorry he did this. I can't believe I judged before asking. You're protecting your kid. Good. Within hours, Rachel's tone online shifted. The vague posts stopped. The victim act wavered. Then her profile went silent altogether. Still, I blocked her, blocked Aaron, blocked every unknown number. By Friday morning, my lawyer called with updates. Rachel has gone quiet, she said, and Aaron hasn't responded through counsel. Good. That means they're scrambling. Scrambling? I repeated. Yes. They didn't expect you to have evidence. They thought they could paint you as unstable. Now they're exposed. She paused, then added, but be ready. People like this rarely go down without a last desperate swing. She was right. Because at 3 p.m. that same afternoon, her voice flat but urgent, she called me again. Scout, Aaron hired an attorney. He's claiming you illegally evicted him. They sent a formal demand for $10,000 for emotional distress. I laughed out loud. Not because it was funny, because it was absurd. Of all the wrong things Aaron had done, of all the harm he'd caused, he had the audacity to position himself as the victim now? What do we do? I asked. We counter, she said simply, for custodial interference. My breath caught. You mean? Yes, he removed your child from your custody without permission. That's unlawful. The recording proves it. I leaned back in my chair, heartbeat thudding slow and heavy. For the first time in days, I felt something that was not fear. I felt leverage. He's not going to like that, I murmured. No, she said, but he needs to understand there are consequences. That evening, as I watched Emma quietly color beside me, her small tongue poking out in concentration, I realized something. Aaron hadn't just underestimated me. He'd underestimated the kind of mother I am, and he had no idea how far I was willing to go to protect my daughter. By Saturday morning, the fragile quiet in my house felt deceptive, like the air before a monsoon. Emma sat at the breakfast table drawing little flowers, humming softly. Every so often, she glanced toward the front door, as if expecting someone to burst through it. I kept my voice cheerful as I suggested pancakes, but inside I was waiting for the next strike from Aaron. It came sooner than expected. Around 10 a.m., my lawyer called. Scout, you're going to like this, she said. For the first time in days, my shoulders eased by a fraction. Aaron's attorney just dropped him, she continued. Apparently, they listened to the recording, reviewed your countersuit paperwork, and realized they can't win. They don't want to represent someone who interfered with a child's custody. I breathed out long and slow. What does that mean for us? I asked. It means, she said, Aaron is cornered, and people who feel cornered make mistakes, so don't let your guard down. She wasn't kidding, because a few hours later, the next blow hit. Not from Aaron this time, from Rachel. Out of nowhere, I got a text from an unknown number. It's Rachel, we need to talk, woman to woman. I stared at the screen, my stomach turned. Another message came. I didn't know everything. Aaron didn't tell me the full story. Can you please talk to me? Talk to her? The woman who'd been posting online that I was toxic? The woman who'd encouraged Aaron's resentment? The woman who'd known damn well about me and Emma and still inserted herself into our household like a shadow with an agenda? No, but part of me also knew something else. People like Rachel collapse under pressure. They panic. They scramble for sympathy from anyone, anywhere. I typed back carefully. Please direct all communication through my attorney. Do not contact me again. Within seconds. Please. Scout. I didn't mean for things to go this far. I thought he was being pushed out. I thought you were manipulative. I blocked the number before reading the rest. I didn't owe her my time, or my explanations, or my forgiveness. When it came to my daughter, empathy had limits. That afternoon, I boxed up a few items Aaron had forgotten, old notebooks, a jacket, a stack of mail, and set the box outside, taped shut, labeled with his name. At 2 p.m., I got a text from a new number. I'm coming to get my things. Fine. I didn't respond. 5 minutes later, his car pulled up. He walked onto the porch, shoulders tight, jaw clenched. He didn't knock. He didn't look at the door. He just grabbed the box in silence. I watched from the upstairs window, not because I was scared, but because I needed confirmation that he took only what was his. He paused once, staring out at the street, swallowing hard. For a second, he looked like he might cry. For a second, I almost felt sorry. Almost, because then he muttered something sharp, bitter, hateful, before storming back to his car. Whatever sympathy was there evaporated. He drove away, and a quiet, eerie stillness settled over my street. But if I thought silence meant safety, I was wrong. That night, my phone buzzed with 3 new screenshots, sent by friends who still followed Rachel on social media. She had posted again. Not accusations this time, not insults. This time, she posted a long, shaky paragraph about trying to help someone who isn't ready to be a parent. Being caught in the middle of a custody meltdown. How lies destroy good men. Then, beneath it, comments from people who had been cheering her on days earlier. Wait, I heard there's proof you're lying. Someone posted a clip of Aaron saying he took her kid without permission. Rachel, what is going on? Her narrative was collapsing in real time. Her comment section turned into a battlefield. Some defending her, some attacking her, most confused. And then, because the internet is fast, someone I didn't know messaged me. Do you want me to post the whole recording? It'll clear everything up. No, absolutely not. I replied immediately. Please don't. This involves a child. I don't want this online. They apologized, said they understood, said they only wanted to help. I thanked them. Then I sat on my couch and realized something. My silence had protected Emma. My evidence had protected me. And truth, without my help, was already circling back to them like a spotlight. Sunday morning, Emma and I had breakfast quietly. She seemed lighter, happier. Her coloring was brighter. She laughed at something silly on TV. When I asked how she felt, she shrugged and said, Better. The house isn't loud anymore. I stopped mid-sip of coffee. Loud? Aaron didn't yell around her. He didn't slam doors. He didn't argue in front of her. So what did she mean by loud? I crouched down beside her chair. Sweetheart, what do you mean? She looked away, suddenly shy. When you were gone, she whispered, things were loud. Not sounds, just loud. Pressure. Tension. Fear. Even if she didn't have the vocabulary, she had the instinct. Kids know when adults are pretending. Emma, I said gently, touching her cheek, you're safe now. No one is going to make you feel like that in your own home. She nodded, leaning into my hand for a second before going back to her drawing. That moment, soft, quiet, painfully honest, told me everything I needed to know about how deeply the last week had affected her. On Monday, the final blow came. Not from Rachel, not from Aaron, but from the legal system itself. My lawyer called, with a voice that sounded like victory. Scout, she said, Aaron's dropped everything. His attorney withdrew the demand for $10,000, but Rachel is now trying something else. My stomach tightened. What now? She wants to avoid being tied to any of this. She's terrified the recording might surface publicly. Her lawyer contacted me. She's willing to sign a binding agreement never to contact you or Emma again if you drop the countersuit. A no-contact agreement. Permanent. Enforceable. Legally binding. My heart thudded slow and steady. Is that good? I asked quietly. It's excellent, she said. You get what you need without dragging Emma through court. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt something real. Relief. You want to do it? She asked. Yes, I said, but with one condition. What's that? It has to cover Aaron, too. Neither of them contacts me or Emma ever again. There was a rustle of papers on her end. I'll draft it right now. And that night, after Emma went to bed, I stood in her doorway watching her sleep. She was sprawled sideways, hair messy across her pillow, breathing in that soft way kids do, like the world hasn't taught them how to fear yet. I whispered into the dim, I'm sorry I let someone like him near us, but I'm fixing it, I promise. Outside, the street was quiet. No footsteps, no cars, no threats. Just peace. The paperwork was coming. The consequences were landing. The walls around our life had been rebuilt stronger than before. And the people who tried to tear through them? They were outside, locked out, for good. By Saturday morning, the fragile quiet in my house felt deceptive, like the air before a monsoon. Emma sat at the breakfast table drawing little flowers, humming softly. Every so often, she glanced toward the front door, as if expecting someone to burst through it. I kept my voice cheerful as I suggested pancakes, but inside I was waiting for the next strike from Aaron. It came sooner than expected. Around 10 a.m., my lawyer called. Scout, you're going to like this, she said. For the first time in days, my shoulders eased by a fraction. Aaron's attorney just dropped him, she continued. Apparently, they listened to the recording, reviewed your countersuit paperwork, and realized they can't win. They don't want to represent someone who interfered with a child's custody. I breathed out long and slow. What does that mean for us? I asked. It means, she said, Aaron is cornered, and people who feel cornered make mistakes, so don't let your guard down. She wasn't kidding, because a few hours later, the next blow hit. Not from Aaron this time. From Rachel. Out of nowhere, I got a text from an unknown number. It's Rachel, we need to talk, woman to woman. I stared at the screen. My stomach turned. Another message came. I didn't know everything. Aaron didn't tell me the full story. Can you please talk to me? Talk to her? The woman who'd been posting online that I was toxic? The woman who'd encouraged Aaron's resentment? The woman who'd known damn well about me and Emma and still inserted herself into our household like a shadow with an agenda? No. But part of me also knew something else. People like Rachel collapse under pressure. They panic. They scramble for sympathy from anyone, anywhere. I typed back carefully. Please direct all communication through my attorney. Do not contact me again. Within seconds. Please. Scout. I didn't mean for things to go this far. I thought he was being pushed out. I thought you were manipulative. I blocked the number before reading the rest. I didn't owe her my time, or my explanations, or my forgiveness. When it came to my daughter, empathy had limits. That afternoon, I boxed up a few items Aaron had forgotten. Old notebooks, a jacket, a stack of mail, and set the box outside, taped shut, labeled with his name. At 2 p.m., I got a text from a new number. I'm coming to get my things. Fine. I didn't respond. 5 minutes later, his car pulled up. He walked onto the porch, shoulders tight, jaw clenched. He didn't knock. He didn't look at the door. He just grabbed the box in silence. I watched from the upstairs window, not because I was scared, but because I needed confirmation that he took only what was his. He paused once, staring out at the street, swallowing hard. For a second, he looked like he might cry. For a second, I almost felt sorry. Almost. Because then he muttered something sharp, bitter, hateful, before storming back to his car. Whatever sympathy was there evaporated. He drove away, and a quiet, eerie stillness settled over my street. But if I thought silence meant safety, I was wrong. That night, my phone buzzed with 3 new screenshots, sent by friends who still followed Rachel on social media. She had posted again. Not accusations this time, not insults. This time she posted a long, shaky paragraph about trying to help someone who isn't ready to be a parent, being caught in the middle of a custody meltdown, how lies destroy good men. Then, beneath it, comments from people who had been cheering her on days earlier. Wait, I heard there's proof you're lying. Someone posted a clip of Aaron saying he took her kid without permission. Rachel, what is going on? Her narrative was collapsing in real time. Her comments section turned into a battlefield. Some defending her, some attacking her, most confused. And then, because the internet is fast, someone I didn't know messaged me. Do you want me to post the whole recording? It'll clear everything up. No, absolutely not. I replied immediately. Please don't. This involves a child. I don't want this online. They apologized, said they understood, said they only wanted to help. I thanked them. Then I sat on my couch and realized something. My silence had protected Emma. My evidence had protected me. And truth, without my help, was already circling back to them like a spotlight. Then Sunday morning, Emma and I had breakfast quietly. She seemed lighter, happier. Her coloring was brighter. She laughed at something silly on TV. When I asked how she felt, she shrugged and said, Better. The house isn't loud anymore. I stopped mid-sip of coffee. Loud? Aaron didn't yell around her. He didn't slam doors. He didn't argue in front of her. So what did she mean by loud? I crouched down beside her chair. Sweetheart, what do you mean? She looked away, suddenly shy. When you were gone, she whispered. Things were loud. Not sounds, just loud. Pressure. Tension. Fear. Even if she didn't have the vocabulary, she had the instinct. Kids know when adults are pretending. Emma, I said gently, touching her cheek, you're safe now. No one is going to make you feel like that in your own home. She nodded, leaning into my hand for a second before going back to her drawing. That moment, soft, quiet, painfully honest, told me everything I needed to know about how deeply the last week had affected her. And on Monday, the final blow came, not from Rachel, not from Aaron, but from the legal system itself. My lawyer called with a voice that sounded like victory. Scout, she said. Aaron's dropped everything. His attorney withdrew the demand for $10,000, but Rachel is now trying something else. My stomach tightened. What now? She wants to avoid being tied to any of this. She's terrified the recording might surface publicly. Her lawyer contacted me. She's willing to sign a binding agreement never to contact you or Emma again if you drop the countersuit. A no-contact agreement. Permanent. Enforceable. Legally binding. My heart thudded slow and steady. Is that good? I asked quietly. It's excellent, she said. You get what you need without dragging Emma through court. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt something real. Relief. You want to do it? She asked. Yes, I said, but with one condition. What's that? It has to cover Aaron, too. Neither of them contacts me or Emma ever again. There was a rustle of papers on her end. I'll draft it right now. And that night, after Emma went to bed, I stood in her doorway watching her sleep. She was sprawled sideways, hair messy across her pillow, breathing in that soft way kids do, like the world hasn't taught them how to fear yet. I whispered into the dim, I'm sorry I let someone like him near us, but I'm fixing it, I promise. Outside, the street was quiet. No footsteps, no cars, no threats. Just peace. The paperwork was coming. The consequences were landing. The walls around our life had been rebuilt stronger than before. And the people who tried to tear through them? They were outside, locked out, for good. The paperwork arrived on a Thursday afternoon. My lawyer emailed it first, then couriered a physical copy, the agreement that would finally shut the door on Aaron and Rachel for good. It was shockingly simple. A few pages, clear terms, zero wiggle room. Neither Aaron nor Rachel may contact Scout Harlow or her daughter, Emma Harlow, in any form, physical, digital, or through third parties, ever again. Violation results in immediate legal repercussions. My lawyer had underlined ever in red. They're agreeing to this? I asked, unable to hide my disbelief. They're eager for it, she replied. Rachel is terrified of the recording going public. Aaron doesn't want the custodial interference filed. They want out before this gets worse for them. I nodded slowly. This was what I wanted. Not revenge, not money, just silence, peace, distance. I signed. By the next morning, both of them had signed as well. Just like that, a chapter that nearly wrecked me, and worse, nearly rattled my daughter's sense of security, was legally sealed shut. They were gone, not blocked, not ignored, not just unwelcome. Gone. Then 3 days later, Emma and I went to a family session with her child therapist. I'd arranged it after everything happened, not because Emma asked, but because I needed someone to help me make sure she was okay. The therapist, a gentle woman with soft gray hair, sat across from us. Emma swung her legs under the chair, looking shy but calm. Emma, the therapist said softly, how have things been at home? Emma thought for a moment. Then she said something I didn't expect. Quieter. Not scared, not lonely, not sad. Just quieter. Is quiet good or bad for you? The therapist asked. Emma shrugged. Good. I can think. My throat tightened. And what do you think about? The therapist prompted. Emma doodled with the corner of a tissue. That I'm not too much. The therapist glanced at me with gentle eyes but didn't pity me. I appreciated that. What makes you feel that way? She asked Emma. Mom said it, Emma said with a small nod. And she doesn't lie. Something in my chest crumpled, like a paper heart unfolding under a careful hand. The therapist smiled softly. I think your mom is right. After the session, while Emma played with a pile of wooden animal toys in the waiting room, the therapist pulled me aside. She's resilient, she said quietly. A little shaken, yes, but she feels safe with you. That's the most important thing. I nodded, overwhelmed with gratitude and guilt and relief tangled together. You're doing well, she added. And for the first time in a very long time, I believed her. And life resumed its rhythm after that. Slow, normal, gentle, like learning how to breathe again after weeks underwater. I picked Emma up from school each afternoon. We made dinner together, her chopping cucumbers with exaggerated care, me pretending not to worry she'd cut her fingers off. We watched movies. We read bedtime stories. We rediscovered the comfort of a home with no tension humming through the walls. One evening, while she was doing homework at the dining table, she looked up and asked, Mom, are you going to date again? I paused mid-sip of tea. Maybe someday, I said slowly, but not anytime soon. I want to focus on us right now. She pursed her lips thoughtfully. Good. I laughed. Good? Why good? She shrugged, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Because I like it when it's just us. The simplicity of that statement, the soft certainty of it, wrapped itself around my heart like a warm blanket. Me too, I whispered. Her face brightened, and she went back to her math worksheet, humming to herself. The house felt warm, quiet, safe, ours again. And later that night, after she was asleep, I sat in the living room with a cup of tea. The house buzzed with the soft, familiar sounds of night, the fridge humming, the wind outside, the distant murmur of traffic. For the first time in weeks, there was no dread, no buzzing phone, no shadows of Aaron's disappointment or Rachel's jealousy pressed against the windows. Just peace. I glanced at the front door, the new lock glinting faintly under the hall light. A lock I'd chosen, a boundary I'd built, a promise I'd reinforced. Protecting Emma wasn't just something I needed to do. It was something I was good at. Losing her father hadn't broken me enough to stop me. Aaron's manipulation hadn't shaken me enough to mislead me. Rachel's interference hadn't scared me enough to silence me. Every hardship had carved out a tougher version of myself, a version who knew the cost of letting the wrong people close. I leaned back on the sofa, letting the quiet settle into my bones. Emma was safe. Our home was ours again. And the people who'd tried to wedge themselves between us, they were now nothing but a sealed file in a lawyer's drawer. There was no dramatic ending, no confrontation, no explosion. Just a simple truth. I realized Emma wasn't the weight holding me down. She was the anchor keeping me from drifting toward the wrong people. And that finally felt like freedom.